There's a new podcast you will want to add to your playlist, The Christian Apologist. The Christian Apologist tackles some of the hardest questions asked of Christians about why they believe in God and Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. They provide credible answers to some of the world's toughest questions using philosophy, physics, astronomy, biology, archaeology, historical facts, and so much more to provide evidence for the existence of God and Jesus of Nazareth. The Christian Apologist have expert guests, debate atheists, interview other Christians and apologists. They just talk about all the hard questions people are asking. Find The Christian Apologist on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and your favorite podcast platform. And make sure to check out their website, thechristianapologist.net. There's a new episode every week. Add The Christian Apologist podcast to your playlist right now.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. Broadcasting from sunny South Florida, Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And man, do we have a lot to talk about today. Now, last weekend, Trump had his first Save America rally. Mm-hmm. His second Save America rally is next weekend in Texas. But the one in Arizona, I told you guys, this was going to be a test of Fox News Channel, right? Would they carry it? Would they not carry it? Of course, they did not carry the Trump rally. They carry it on the Fox Nation app, so they can say, well, we're doing it. But that's not going to do it for me. And Newsmax, of course, and One American News, but Newsmax in particular carried the Trump rally. The ratings are out. Newsmax TV was number one by far on Saturday night during the Trump rally. Number one, beating Fox, MSNBC, and CNN.
Combined.
Yeah.
And Fox.
Yeah, they did
Combined.
very well. And Heather Childress and Bob Sellers did a little piece on Brian Stelter from CNN's reaction to Newsmax not only carrying the rally, but being number one in the ratings that night. And I want to play this exchange to you, but I got to tell you, Bob Sellers has cleaned up his act over there on Newsmax. You know, Bob Sellers was a little crotchety, wasn't very pleasant. He's the one who walked off the set while he was interviewing Mike Lindell. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And I thought he was rude to his co-host, and he had a collection of co-hosts before Heather Childress joined.
Yeah.
But he has cleaned up his act, and he's nice now to people.
He seems much nicer.
Yeah.
I think somebody had a little conversation
happened
with Bob, and I think he always seemed to be hostile. And Heather is amazing. She's a true professional, and there's no need for him to be that way. He always just came across as a little bitter and hostile. And I think after that episode, he walked off on that Mike Lindell interview, his tone has definitely changed. I think somebody had a major talk with him.
Yeah, big time. So let me just play this. We'll talk about it as we go along. But this is from Newsmax. It's Heather Childress, Bob Sellers, and then they play a clip. We're going to play a clip of them playing a clip of Brian Stelter from CNN. All right, then we'll talk about it as we go on. But what it's about is how they were number one in the ratings because they carried the Trump rally when the others didn't.
We should get some credit for this. Some big news from our coverage of President Trump's rally last weekend. We have the ratings from Nielsen and others. Newsmax had over 5 million people tune in, and that was up 40% over his last rally last October in Iowa.
Wow, people ready to give back. But how did CNN treat the...
Okay, now before we get into that, see, now this really goes to tell you how, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, they don't care about ratings. They're agenda-driven.
That's right.
They've decided they're not carrying anything President Trump does so they can, cancel him. And Fox News is part of the cancel culture now. And even when Fox News has made a lot of changes because of Newsmax. They fired Chris Wallace, I believe, because he's responsible for the rise of Newsmax.
Well, then Fox seems to care about ratings because they have had a direct reaction, I feel, to Newsmax.
Yeah, but their Trump derangement trumps their caring for the ratings. They made a lot of changes.
A little bit.
Like this week on Monday night, Jesse Waters' new show starts at 7 o'clock, went against Greg Kelly on Newsmax. But even though they're getting beaten on Saturday night when Trump has a rally by Newsmax, by far, they're not going to change anything that they do for the ratings on that night because they want to cancel Donald Trump. So
let me ask you, they've taken away Jesse Waters Saturday. They're now going to have Brian Kilmeade, who to me has zero personality.
And they moved Bongino on earlier.
And they put Bongino on earlier, and
took off
Janine. So to me, they're kind of treating Saturday like a throwaway.
Yeah.
Like a throwaway night. Instead of running the rallies and instead of meeting that challenge, to me, they're just writing Saturday off.
Yeah. And Trump's going to eventually have a rally every Saturday and probably multiple Saturday rallies in the future as we get closer into this. Okay, so back to this. This is Heather Childress and Bob Sellers on Newsmax, and they're going to play a clip of Brian Stelter's reaction to the Trump rally coverage.
Trump rally, here's what Brian Stelter said.
What's newsworthy, what's interesting, is the way these rallies are covered.
You know, his tone was interesting. Like, he's so snarky and condescending, isn't he?
Him.
Where did this guy come from?
I can't stand him.
Why is Brian Stelter
important? There's a woman
important?
that married this man.
Yeah, before he was
shocking,
famous.
and had children
oh my goodness.
with this man. I mean, what does that say about
that she's just like him?
That tells me there is definitely somebody for everybody.
She's in the media, too. She's in local media in New York. But let's get back to
it. What's interesting is the way these rallies are covered or the way they're ignored. Major networks and newsrooms mostly do ignore Trump's lies. ABC's Morning Show today.
Ignores Trump's lies. A real news organization, it is up to the viewer, it is up to the public to consume the news and decide what is truthful and not true. But the mainstream media and CNN, they're going to decide for you what truth is.
Well,
right?
It was never, maybe it was like that in the old days because they would decide and they would discern what they were going to put on television.
Yeah.
But now they're just more overtly honest about their agenda where they just come out and flat out say it. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how they've really felt, though. That's why people have to understand what you see on the news is very carefully crafted, altered, manipulated, and put in a neat little package. And they present it to you exactly the way they want to hear it. And Brian Stelter has a totally warped perspective, as you will find out when you hear him explain this in his way.
The newsrooms mostly do ignore Trump's lies. ABC's Morning Show today, no mention of the rally. NBC, no mention of the rally. Even Fox and Friends only mentioned Trump a couple of times this morning.
Now that really burned me because I was watching Fox and Friends on Sunday morning after the rally to see what their take was, and nothing.
Fox did not hype the rally in advance. Fox did not air it live, did not play all the greatest hits afterward. They're much busier with Biden bashing. So Trump fans had to seek out smaller channels like Newsmax, One America News, and Rights.
Okay. Like Newsmax. Newsmax is number 4 in cable news. Number 4, that's pretty good. And it will not be long. Eventually they will be number 3 and then 2.
I think so.
And it's going to be between Newsmax and Fox for number 1.
I think so. And I think that if they keep going on the trajectory they're going, and once the elections start to really kick up, you have other people that are running that people want to see, and you have Trump campaigning. I think that's really going to help Newsmax because now that OAN is going to be gone and other things, there's really a need. There's a niche that they can fill, and if they play their cards right, they can really catapult.
Oh yeah,
they have a lot of stars over there. Everybody they have on that network is good. They hired James Rosen. That was, they just hired that guy. And he had a question for Biden that went viral that everybody talked about last week. So they're they're hiring the right people for sure, I think.
Oh, yeah.
All the greatest hits afterward. They're much busier with Biden bashing. So Trump fans had to seek out smaller channels like Newsmax, One America News, and Right Side Broadcasting in order to get their fix.
Now, that's an interesting thing, too, because now Right Side Broadcasting is at the same level now, according to Brian Stelter, on everyone's notice.
They must be thrilled that he even mentioned that.
Exactly. That's huge.
That is huge.
These channels treated the rally like a Super Bowl with hours of pregame coverage and live interviews from the scene. Most Arizonans were not rushing to the rally. The vast majority of Americans don't care enough.
They turned
There
away
were 50,000 people there.
They turned away thousands and thousands of people from the rally,
Plus
and there was
Newsmax-
50,000 in attendance.
Plus, Newsmax said that the viewership was up 40% from his last rally.
That's
so what
right.
does that tell you?
So Trump fans had to seek out smaller channels like Newsmax, One America News, and
He's such
Right
a
Side
snob.
Broadcasting in order to get their fix. These channels treated the rally like a Super Bowl with hours of pregame coverage and live interviews from the scene. Most Arizonans were not rushing to the rally. The vast majority of Americans don't care enough about politics to spend their Saturday night listening to a former president
Not
rant and
true.
rave. Most people didn't care, didn't give one hoot. He tells his fans to do this, and that. Some of them, a small number, do tune into these fringe channels if they can find them somewhere.
That's ridiculous.
But when even Fox chooses not to carry a Trump rally at the start of the midterm year, you know something's going on. That's not strength. That's a weakness for the former president.
Okay.
Whatever.
Now that rant by Brian Stelter was the Sunday after the Trump rally. Trump rally was Saturday night, and it was the Sunday after. That was before all the ratings came out and were public. So then the ratings come out, the Nielsen ratings come out, and that's where Heather Childress and Bob Sellers come in.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
Get
a lot
outta
of time
here.
spent saying nobody was watching the Trump rally. Well, you were here, right? This was kind of the big lie technique. CNN, Stelter, you know, they're doing that. A lot of people think they've done it before. They repeat a lie often enough and people believe it. But the fact is people were watching.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's believing him. So let's look at the actual data. How about that? Let's look at the data. Huge audience, over 5 million, Brian and others. This is bigger than Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC combined in 1 hour in daytime prime ratings. But let's take a look at CNN's audience, Brian, and your ratings that night, specifically when Stelter says no one was watching Trump. Well, here's the reality of that. The interesting part, CNN is available, by the way, in 20 million homes, more than Newsmax on cable systems, and we still beat CNN big time in overall viewers.
Yeah, but if you look at the coverage of the ratings, which shows the cable viewership on a proportional basis, Newsmax really kind of destroyed CNN. I'm sorry, but that's just what's going on.
I'm not sorry.
What that means is that Newsmax was in first place last Saturday night. CNN, what place? 1, 2, 3, fourth place, right? So remember, CNN's ratings from last year, down 80%. Well, up to the end of 2021, right?
That's right.
So people apparently turning it off. They're giving us a chance. So when Mr. Stelter, that a lot of people feel is putting out disinformation here, says that nobody was watching. Maybe nobody was watching CNN, but there were a lot of people watching here on Newsmax.
Yeah, and and those numbers, by the way, they're just going over the television Nielsen. They're not going over how many were watching them on YouTube, how many were watching them on their app, and other things. So, I mean, this is amazing.
Well, what's interesting is this is classic liberalism projection and deflection. You have Brian Stelter. CNN's ratings are down 80, 90% from last year. That's been in the news for the last few weeks. Yet he goes on his show, which nobody watches, by the way, and rips other networks for their ratings.
Yeah.
When his are in the toilet and CNN is on the brink of disaster. That is classic projection, projecting what they're experiencing onto others, because that's how he rationalizes it. Do you understand? His job is in jeopardy. His whole network is in jeopardy, and he can't handle this. And he lies to himself. Not only does he lie to the audience, his audience of small people, but he lies to himself because he can't handle the truth. He can't live with the reality that nobody watches CNN, nobody trusts CNN, and that nobody likes him.
That's right. That's right. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about the Thomas Edison of sleep. Of course, that's Mike Lindell, the inventor of the MyPillow, and his Valentine's Day is right around the corner. I want to go over a couple of specials that are at MyPillow.com with our promo code at checkout, Kane, K-A-N-E, that make great Valentine's Day gifts. But I want to remind you, every special at MyPillow.com, no matter what it says, you could take advantage of that special with our promo code at checkout, Kane, K-A-N-E. But great for Valentine's Day, the MyPillow bathrobes. Kathy and I both have My Pillow bathrobes. You get his and hers for Valentine's Day. That is a gift that your Valentine will remember for years to come. We've had ours for a year now, and every time we wash it and dry it, it looks brand new like the day it arrived in the mail. There are a whole bunch of new colors in, a lot of new colors. In fact, I just saw a new blue that is in, but they have many, many new colors. They also have a new style robe. The robe that Kathy and I each have is the heavy robe. They have a new lighter robe, and with our promo code Kane at checkout, 30% off the My Pillow bathrobe. Also, to go with that bathrobe, the My Pillow My Slippers. I am wearing My Pillow My Slippers right now. They're my podcasting slippers because I typically am wearing them while we're podcasting. The My Pillow My Slippers come in many different styles and colors for both men and women. I have the tan moccasin fur line My Pillow My Slippers, but there's other styles and many other colors. Those are 40% off with the promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. There's also incredible deals on the 6-piece My Pillow towel set, normally $109.99. We have these towels. They are spectacular towels. They work perfectly just like a towel is supposed to work. With our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, just $39.99. A great deal, many colors of those. And also the My Pillow 100% Giza Cotton Dream Sheets. Buy one set, get a second set free with the promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. So there's great deals there, no doubt about it.
Okay, so before we move on, I want to say this is my advice for Newsmax. And I think maybe sometimes they do listen to the show.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to see a Sunday morning panel show or a Sunday morning show like they have Meet the Press, a politically driven show with some of their top, maybe Greg Kelly, Eric Bolling, Heather Childress, and maybe one other person, some of their top, maybe John Bachman. Get the four of them on a panel show discussing the politics of the week. I think Newsmax needs a Sunday morning political show like Meet the Press at 10 o'clock or 11 to really be on the map with these other networks, because all these networks have like that Sunday morning political show that wraps up the week and brings on the real heavy hitters. And I think they need to do something like that to up their game. I wanted to play, did you hear this clip of this guy? I don't know if you have it queued up for the show today on CNN that totally ripped Biden. Did you hear this?
I did not.
Viral. Oh
I did not.
I'm going to play this for you. Hold on. And he said this in front of Anderson Cooper. This was just the other day.
Make sure you turn the volume up all the way first. And you might get an ad playing.
I have an ad. I'm going to skip it.
Okay, there we go.
Just wrote, essentially saying this is Joe Biden doing what Joe Biden does.
Yeah, well, I never imagined how quickly this would all unfold. The person they sold on the campaign, the nice old, moderate grandpa who just wanted to help everybody get along and compromise, is not what we got over the last year. He has no mandate really to do much of anything. It's amazing that he got a couple of things done when the mandate was really pretty clear. 50-50 Senate, a near 50-50 House, and a pretty close presidential election. The mandate was simply replace Donald Trump and don't do anything drastic or stupid. And everything about this agenda is extremely drastic. And he's been angrier than I think people expected. He's been more divisive. He's been more partisan. You look at the issues. We built 5 years of coverage on Trump out of Russia, COVID, and democracy. The president at his press conference invites Russia to invade the Ukraine. We got more deaths under Biden than Trump. And now we have the president and vice president and leading Democrats question the legitimacy of the 2022 election. Are we any better off on these three issues that we crucified Trump over? I think he has a lot of political problems, and an AP poll came out this morning. Only 28% of Americans want the sitting president to run for re-election, and fewer than half of Democrats. This is a disaster.
Okay, that guy, his name I think is Scott Jennings, and he worked for George Bush the second.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter, because I'll tell you why. That he's a Republican doesn't matter.
No, I know.
A couple things.
He speaks the truth.
One, it's CNN. Two, it's Anderson Cooper's the host.
Right.
And three, he's part of that uniparty. Kerry Lake was talking about the being from Bush. That means he's with the Republican-Democrat alliance against Trump.
No, but he did say
they
that
want Biden out.
They do, and I personally feel that Hillary is behind all of this because the media has turned on Biden. And what's happening is they have the midterms coming up, and nobody wants to be attached to this guy. Remember, he did that voting thing in Georgia. Stacey Abrams, that's her big issue. She didn't even show up because now politicians to be aligned with him is political suicide. But the fact that this guy, he even said Biden's whole agenda to get elected was just, I'm not Trump.
Yeah.
Well, that's not an agenda, obviously. And to me, the fact that they're allowing somebody like this to talk about Biden in that manner, I think it's twofold. I think, like I said, I think Hillary has something to do with this because I think she's going to run. I've said that for months. And I think she wants to make sure that Biden is completely done.
Yeah.
And the media loves the Clintons.
Mm-hmm.
They will do whatever the Clintons say.
Oh, yeah.
And I think also because the other Democrats that are running, they understand that Biden is a disaster politically. And there's no defending this guy. I mean, he's getting attacked from all sides. So I just thought that was an interesting clip. It went viral. Everybody was talking about it the other day.
They want Biden out. He is a disaster. Now, listen,
That's
we're going to take
sure.
a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
Have you ever heard of the Mandela effect? It seems everyone's talking about it these days, and for good reason. It's a fascinating concept. The Mandela effect is when a group of people remember a different version of an aspect, such as a movie line that doesn't match reality. The book from author Ron Deming, Mandela Effect Memories, available on Amazon, explores the idea that everything you know is a lie. The Mandela effect encompasses a mysterious set of mismatching memories and is known to cause a surreal feeling. This must-read book explores the possibility of these mismatching memories being caused by false memories, parallel universes, or a simulated reality. Concepts from quantum mechanics might hold the key to narrowing down the possible cause for this incredible phenomena. Imagine, if you will, that memories change over time without you even realizing it. Mandela Effect Memories from author Ron Deming is available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Order your copy right now. It's time to budget like a boss. 2022 is going to be a good year, and that begins with a budget. Getting yourself on the right financial track is all about keeping track of your money. And there's an online Excel digital product that can help track spending and expenses, analyze and assess your real financial position, define your savings dreams, and your investment goals. Make a plan to lead yourself and your family to financial freedom. Key features of the dashboard include instant download, so you can start right now. It's quick and easy. Manage your finances and don't waste your precious personal time. Effective shouldn't equal hard. This is a digital budget program you can use every day in Excel. Budget like a boss. You can download it right now at payhip.com/B/E capital E X capital X. That's payhip.com/B/E capital E X capital X. Do you love to cook and create your own dishes for others to enjoy? Then you need to visit Zenin.com. That's ZEHNEN. At Zenin.com, find chefs, cooks, and culinarians looking to make extra cash by cooking a home-cooked meal for others. This is a personal chef for hire dine-in service, whether it's for a dinner party or a nice romantic dinner for two. Many people would love to hire a professional chef or cook for themselves. The process is simple. Just go to Zenin.com. The cook or chef go to the Zenin app, creates a profile to showcase what they have to offer, as well as a price range. The requesters then browse local cooks or chefs in their area to book their services. There's a growing demand, and the Zenin app can make it happen. If you love to cook and are good at it, you can make some great money doing what you love. The best part of networking through Zenin is that anyone can create a profile and show off their skills. If you're looking to hire your own personal chef, visit Zenin.com. That's ZEHNEN. Also, download the app in the Google Play and Apple App Store. Zenin, the new way to dine in.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I want to play this clip of Biden saying to Kamala Harris on a live video communication that was available
weird
to the press, where he, professed his love for Kamala Harris right before Valentine's Day of all times, right? Because Valentine's Day right around the corner. Listen to this.
Mama, I love you. You always have my back. You're really amazing. You're the best partner I could imagine.
What did he say? You always scratch my back?
You always have my back.
Oh,
and
that's creepy.
Yeah, it's very creepy. And when you watch the video, Kamala's not very comfortable. Looks very uncomfortable. Kamala came up.
It's a little demeaning.
Well, Kamala has come up with this baggage behind her of being Willie Brown's girlfriend, and everybody knows about it. Everybody talks about it. She knows what Pelosi and all the Washington ladies say about her and think about her. They don't like her. They think she's a homewrecker.
And the country doesn't like her.
And when you have...
Nobody likes her.
No, and when you have married Joe Biden saying to a woman, I love you, you always have my back, right before Valentine's Day, that makes her look like what she is thought of through Willie Brown. And you don't think this flipped out Jill Biden?
I'm sure it flipped out Jill and Kamala.
And Kamala's husband. And what kind of thoughts do people put through their minds about the relationship between these two when he's talking so fresh?
Especially coming from him.
It is. It's revealing. Part of Biden's problem, Biden has a history of being a
creep.
but a liar.
Yeah.
And one thing about his age-related cognitive decline, you get to see the real Biden. It's like, when people are drunk, you get to see the real Biden who says a lot of things that he wouldn't say if he had his wits about him, and he had those protections on like people do in politics. And I think this was not an accident that he said that. And I think the relationship between the two of them is beyond just a professional relationship. Maybe. And you guys, let us know in the comments what you think about that. I
don't want to think about that.
Well, do you believe that the relationship is beyond the professional relationship? And if it's not, do you think that Joe Biden is trying to make it less professional? I think people know what I'm saying by that. Let me know in the comments.
I think his comments, I don't like her at all. I don't like either one of them.
Who does?
But I think his comments were demeaning and made it look like she was not a professional. And he would never speak like that of a man. I don't know. Maybe he would. All right. This is one more clip I just found. It came from Meet the Press this morning. And this is Chuck Todd.
President Biden's news conference on Wednesday was designed to kick off a second-year reset of his presidency. Recaptures political identity, if you will. But our new NBC News poll suggests Mr. Biden does need a reset because he's lost his identity a bit. He's no longer seen as competent and effective. No longer seen as a good commander-in-chief, or perhaps most damaging, as easygoing and likable. In fact, just 5% of adults say Mr. Biden has performed better than expected as president. One of the many lowest firsts and fewest in our poll. And as we kick off our Meet the Midterms coverage heading into November, the NBC News political unit developed what we're calling a midterm meter. It's based on previous election cycles. It's basically 3 poll numbers you need to know best. I'm going to start with perhaps the most important number to understand the direction of the midterms. It's job approval here. The president's job approval rating sitting at 43%. If you look at history shows that kind of presidential approval rating leads to a shellacking for the party in power. How about the mood of the nation? Well, let me show you this. Right now, our wrong track, nation's on the wrong track number, sitting at 72%. Second poll in a row where we've been over 70%. This is only the third time in our poll's history over 30 years where we've had 2 tracks that were that off. That, again, would put you in shellacking territory for the party in power.
Wow.
See,
that's NBC.
A lot of people don't understand how big of a deal this is. The first one was CNN, now MSNBC.
Yeah. All this week.
The liberal mainstream media do not go after Democrats like this, especially during election years.
No, I mean,
this is unheard of.
It is, and there's reasons behind it. They're not. Nothing they do is organic or genuine or sincere. There's reasons they're doing this, and we all know polls can be manipulated. I believe these polls. I believe that 72% of the country does not think we're going in the right direction. I think that's totally realistic. But they don't have to show you that. They don't have to run with that on MSNBC. They could bury that. They've buried many things that have hurt Democrats. But what's interesting, and I'd like to know what you guys think about it, about our theory or my theory about Hillary and the other Dems. But what do you think is behind all of this? Why has the media, is it just because Biden's totally indefensible and they would look like idiots if they even defended him? Or is there something else going on? Usually with politics, there's always somebody pulling the strings behind the curtain, and there's other motives. And I smell Hillary Clinton behind all of this.
And, the mainstream media, they're leaving Republicans alone. They're going after Biden all the time.
That's true.
There's Democrats always have negative polls, but NBC and CNN don't usually tell you about them.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They don't have to show. And not only did he tell you, they had a whole graphic on the screen. So you had a visual as well as him telling you to make sure that you could pause your television and really look at that data and that information. And they had a meter, and it was in the red and I retweeted of shellacking, which is an interesting phrase, meaning that the Democrats are going to get creamed in November, which we all know is probably going to happen because Biden is horrible.
And also, we have two examples, one from CNN, one from MSNBC. MSNBC, NBC News, and CNN don't view conservatives or non-interested political people as their audience. They view their audience as hardcore liberal Democrat voters. So they're really trying to influence the midterms and against the Democrat. I think in a way, I know this will sound crazy. I think CNN and MSNBC have accepted that there's going to be a big red wave, and they actually, in a way, want to lose the midterms and have the Republicans win so that they can push Biden out in 2024. They want Biden out bad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not just Hillary. They all want him out because he's bad for business. Yeah. He's the weak link in the chain. You know what I mean? He's bringing everybody down with him. And they don't want to people don't even want to have photo ops with this guy anymore, like Stacey Abrams. They don't even want to be affiliated or associated with him or Kamala. She never should have agreed to go with him, and I'm not sure why she did. I know it's exciting to be vice president, but this is political suicide for her. Not that she was so great to begin with, but I believe if she stayed a senator, she would have been a senator for life because, Democrats are stupid. They would have kept electing her.
Yes.
But her career's over now after this. She's so unlikable. His numbers are bad. Hers are worse. That's what's crazy. But I think that you're right. I think he's a loser. They want nothing to do with him. But, we knew this was going to happen. And Trump knew this was going to happen. And Hannity had said to Trump, just sit back and watch. It's going to be a complete disaster. But we knew this. I don't know how when he was campaigning from the basement and when he couldn't even put a sentence together coherently, how did Democrats not understand that this guy would be a horrible, horrible leader? It was obvious to us. It was obvious to you guys. I mean, this guy's so incoherent. And you're right, for his wife to force him and his family to force him to do this, somebody should have talked him out of this. It's awful. I mean, because you're watching this man decline right in front of you. And I told you, I think the end is going to happen when he goes on TV and he's going to have a complete cognitive meltdown, and you're going to see him on camera be like, where am I?
Why am I here?
Who am I?
You?
What's going on?
Jill.
That is when they're going to be forced to do something like the 25th Amendment or something. But until that happens, they're going to keep things going. But I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to be on live television, and he's going to have a major lapse. I've said that before. I can see it happening.
Absolutely. Now, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. All of you Patreon supporters, thank you so much. Your help is greatly appreciated. Your support of this program, we both appreciate very, very much. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on every episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Jacqueline, Rick, Rich, and Nick. These are our top Patreon supporters, and if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there is a link in the description of this episode. There's a direct link on my website, briancraigshow.com, and the direct website address is patreon.com/realbriancraigshow. patreon.com/realbriancraigshow. But again, there's a link in the episode description as well. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Drop your NFT collection with zero coding skills. That's right. ZeroCodeNFT.com is a seamless solution to create a smart contract and facilitate the launch of your NFT collection while keeping the fees to a minimum. ZeroCodeNFT.com offers a wide range of features such as lazy minting. Your customers pay the fees. Batch minting, airdrop. You can surprise people by sending them a free NFT. ZeroCodeNFT.com also offer custom white label solutions as well. ZeroCodeNFT.com, a seamless solution to create a smart contract and facilitate the launch of your NFT collection. Are you someone who likes France and all things French? Then there's a book from author David Newton Dunn that you will want to add to your must-read list. Secrets from a Stranger, available on Amazon. Secrets from a Stranger is a new French thriller. It's a real page-turner. A long-haired stranger asking too many questions shatters the lives of 30-year-old Camille and her famous mother, who won a gold medal at the age of 17 in the 1936 Olympic Games. Mostly set in France in the 1960s, readers will also visit pre-war Berlin, Paris in the 1940s, and London before murders are unleashed and a desperate, pulse-racing manhunt ensues. Camille is disenchanted back in France after living in London and falls for the mysterious stranger who arrives in the village under suspicious circumstances. She stumbles over secrets and makes terrible decisions which endanger her life and her mother's. She never loses hope and tries untiringly to get her life together, only for a trap to close around her and greed to lead to murder. Intermingled with echoes of the last World War, the French resistance, and the plight of the Jews, Secrets from a Stranger is deeply psychological and relentlessly suspenseful. It's full of twist and high emotions and will keep readers who like Europe and historical fiction on the edge of their seats. There are so many details that show the author's exceptional knowledge and love of France. Secrets from a Stranger is perfect for book clubs, those who have traveled to France, have a trip to France in their future, or have always dreamed of visiting France. Available in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover editions. Secrets from a Stranger, from author David Newton Dunn. Order your copy right now. Your big day is about to happen. A wedding. It's special and it's the biggest event of your life. You want to capture that special day perfectly, and the right videographer can make all the difference. This is where Megapulse Media comes in. Megapulse Media is a professional wedding videography company located in Greenville, South Carolina. Owner Matt Jordan is a local who was born and raised in Greenville. He has years of professional experience working with weddings and events. He covers Greenville, South Carolina, and the surrounding areas. When you visit MegaPulseMedia.com, you can see his portfolio, and you will quickly understand Matt is the man you want for the job. He will make your wedding video extra special, fun, and romantic. Visit his website, MegaPulseMedia.com, for a free consultation, or call Matt directly at 864-640-9355. 864-640-9355.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. So Biden is in the media. As much as the media are undermining Biden, they're helping him create this fake war with Russia and the Ukraine. And I'm looking at CNN. Here's the first headline. Blinken, the Secretary of State. Blinken doubles down on warning to Putin. Yeah, Putin's going to take a warning seriously from a country that just lost the war in Afghanistan. The Secretary of State says a single additional Russian force entering Ukraine would trigger a U.S. response. Well, what would that be? UK releases intel on Russian plot in Ukraine. Ukrainian soldiers wait for the fight. There sure is coming. This is all CNN on the front page of their website. Q&A, what's the history of the Ukraine-Russian conflict? An opinion article, Putin confronts the mud of Ukraine. It goes on and on. Russian foreign minister, the West is in hysterics over Ukraine. Okay, if Putin takes over the Ukraine today, it has no impact on us in the United States. Who cares? It's none of our business, and it's obvious what's going on here. Biden, there's two things going on. One, Biden's doing this wag the dog because his poll numbers are so low, and no president of the United States has ever lost re-election during wartime. So they think if they have a war going on,
good luck.
It'll help him with the polls because people will rally behind him. Problem is, everybody knows what this is. And
well, they need a villain. They need a villain. They don't have Trump.
Well, the villain's Biden.
Well, exactly, but he wants to make the villain Putin because he's the villain right now. Everybody's giving him a hard time, so he needs to create a new villain to take it off of him. That's what this is all about.
And the other thing is, the military contractors that are donors to the politicians, both parties, want this to make money. Yesterday, it was some resources landed in Ukraine, $200 million. They said the first $200 million in aid to the Ukraine has arrived, so there's more coming. And then they listed all these other countries that are sending military aid to Ukraine, and the military aid they're giving them is armaments that are made by the United States. So it's a big scam for both of those reasons. The Ukraine, most people can't even find Ukraine on a map. If you gave me a map that wasn't labeled at all, I'd have to think. You know what I mean? And that's true for most people. It has zero relevance in our life. We should stay out of it. And if Putin doesn't want to take over the Ukraine, by the way, I don't believe. If he wanted to, he would have done it.
Yeah.
What's stopping him? Biden? If
definitely not.
Putin took over the Ukraine this week, what would Biden do? Have a strongly worded statement?
Yeah.
Sanctions?
There's something else going on here.
Yeah.
And, of course, money is at the root of everything that goes on in these
That's what
circumstances.
Biden's in the business of, making money.
So, we know his history with Ukraine already.
Yep.
And we saw it on video. So there's something going on here, and obviously the media is not going to tell you exactly what it is. But that's what our job is to let you guys know what's really going on.
Well, I'm totally against anything and any involvement in the Ukraine.
I mean, these things, I agree when there's a country being invaded. America has a history of going in and helping their allies. We've helped Israel. We've helped, during World War II. We helped Iraq with George Bush the first. When they were being invaded. So there is that.
Kuwait when Iraq invaded
Kuwait. I mean, so there is that history of us doing things like that. But then there's also a lot of times where we've gotten involved, like Vietnam and Iraq again with George Bush II, that we did not need to be involved in. And it cost money, lives, was different. And everything.
Kuwait was different because...
How is that different from Ukraine?
Well, because it involved a lot of oil and things that we need. Ukraine... If it becomes Russian again, which it always was, it would change nothing. It impacts nothing. They produce nothing but ways for corrupt Democrats to make money like Biden.
Why do you think Putin is so interested in this, though? Why is he just so hell-bent on getting it back?
He's got a wag the dog thing going on, too. He wants his people to show he wants to show to his people how tough he is. So
a lot of this is ego-driven.
Yeah, so he just messes around with them. Yeah. And, I did a live stream on YouTube about this morning, and I was surprised. Pretty much everyone agreed with me on all of this. The Cold War, when the Soviet Union was a real threat, was not really a threat. The Soviet Union was a third world country. They were never a threat with us, and they have been ginning up for years some fake Cold War II thing between the United States and Russia, and I'm not following for it.
I remember when all that was going on, and that went on for decades because my dad lived under the Cold War. He grew up in the 40s, and my dad was born in 1938, and he grew up with all that in the 50s and the 60s, and the fear of nuclear bombs. And he used to have nuclear bomb drills. He told me in elementary school in the 40s and stuff, in the 50s in high school. And the Cold War went on for decades and decades. And I remember in the 80s, there were a lot of movies with Russia as the enemy, Russia as the villain. And I was really, when I was in middle school, growing up in elementary school, I was really afraid of Russia. Yeah. They really did a good job of making them. And again, I think that again was a time where they needed an enemy. They needed something to talk about. And they felt it was something they could rally the American people behind, that they could get the American people united on a common enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. And maybe that has something to do with it, too. It's a kind of manipulation of the masses to get them on board. Right now, everybody hates Biden. It's like that show, Everybody Hates Chris. And you're right. This could be a wag the dog thing, or he's at least allowing this. And he basically said in his press conference that he's probably going to invade.
And he can, as long as it's not that far in.
Exactly. And maybe, whatever that means, and maybe this is his way in a twisted logic, or the people with him are thinking, well, if we have Russia doing something bad or perceived to be bad, then we can get the American people behind you on this. They will collectively support you on this. He needs a cause. He needs a common enemy. He needs somebody to prop up as a villain where the American people, but it's not going to happen because no matter what he does, no matter what he says, he's a failure. He's always been a failure. He's a horrible leader. He was never a good senator. And as far as they're talking about how he's getting nasty, that one guy said he's just gotten mean. He's always been mean. He hasn't gotten mean. Do they not remember that clip when he was a lot younger, when he was yelling at that one voter and telling him how he was smarter than him and lying about his education? He's always been a jerk. This is nothing new. I don't know why they all believed this, the idea of him being a sweet old grandpa. He was never like that. This is not a new thing. He's always been an a-hole.
Yeah, well, Biden may be trying to make Putin an enemy, but to Joy Reid, the enemy is always the white guy, right? Always the white man.
Yes, that's a concept.
And Joy Reid, Joy Reid finds race in places that really surprise me sometimes. I mean, there's no racial component to something, and she still finds race.
Incredible.
So this is a clip. This is Joy Reid. She has Mayor Pete on, who's running the supply chain crisis into even a more severe situation. Here's Joy Reid with Mayor Pete.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think it was a mistake looking back? Because, the infrastructure bill that was passed was cleaved apart from what's now being called Build Back Better. And in a sense, it's a bill that's like a white guy employment act, right? There's going to be...
Oh, my goodness.
She is just...
A white guy employment act?
Can she say a sentence without saying white guy?
Yeah.
That is
or
like
systemic racism.
Exactly.
Or critical race theorist.
She's got problems.
Yeah, come on. Are white people not allowed to get jobs now?
I guess not.
If things aren't supposed to benefit white people at all? Yeah, get back to it.
Called Build Back Better. And in a sense, it's a bill that's like a white guy employment act, right? There's going to be a lot of working class men that are going to get employed by that bill, but that's the very...
Is that a bad thing?
She is so disturbed.
She
really is.
She's messed up.
She really is. I really hope they get rid of her show because she's just a waste of space.
So Joy Reid, she's gone too far for even Mayor Pete.
Cohort that is much more likely to reward Republicans for that. That's who they vote for. Most, working class white guys vote Republican.
She's just rambling.
Meanwhile, all the stuff for the women, for moms, for people who need child care, for people of color, that's going to affect climate, which young people really care about.
Joy Reid thinks that if you are white, that you don't have any worries in the world. You all have trust funds, everything's taken care of. You don't have to worry about work or child care or budgeting, just gas prices, everything. Every white person is like, a Kennedy with a trust fund.
Well, maybe she thinks that's why white people shouldn't get jobs.
I guess.
Because we're all rich.
I guess.
We don't need to work.
I wish that was true, that we didn't have to work and we all had trust funds and didn't have to worry. But I'm sorry, Joy, that racial stereotype you have of white people is not true.
Extending the child tax credit, all the stuff that helps families and women and younger people and, people with college debt, all that got dropped. Do you think it was a mistake to split those bills?
Okay, now before we get to Pete, that thing she said about people with college debt, I went to college as an adult and paid for it. I had no college debt because we paid for it. Kathy and I were married. We had our daughter. Sometimes I took one class. Sometimes I didn't take any classes and skipped a term. And this idea that the entitlement class, the entitlement mentality that you should be able to go to school for 4 or 6 years and not pay for any of it and just rack up student loan debt, which is a choice you make, and not work, and we're supposed to pay for that?
All that got dropped. Do you think it was a mistake to split those bills?
No, and I want to challenge the idea that this is a bill that only benefits one part of the population. I get where you're coming from and what you're saying, but look, you look at something like the investment in transit. It's Americans of color, commuters of color, who are most likely.
Okay, so there's Mayor Pete with his racism. Public transportation is a thing for black people. White people don't take public transportation.
Oh, my gosh.
Are you kidding me?
That's craziness.
People of all colors take public transportation.
Absolutely.
I mean, everything with the left is race.
Mm-hmm.
And, Mayor Pete's had a charmed life brought up by the Kennedys and everything.
I'm sure Joy Reid has a driver. She doesn't take public transportation.
You don't think she drives herself to work or takes the subway?
No, she probably has a private driver that takes her everywhere.
So?
Absolutely. And him too. But she doesn't take public transportation. Neither does he, for that matter. But I'm just saying, it's, Democrats love to put people in boxes because that's how they maintain power. They divide and conquer. That's what they do. That's how they think. They stereotype people, and they think that one race is one way and another race is another way, and that's the way it is, and that's how they talk, and that's really their perspective they come from. I mean, that's just really how they see the world.
Yeah.
And you can tell by the way they talk that's how they see things. She's the same way. The black people do this, white people do that, Asian people do this. They just really, I never hear Republicans talk like that ever. Do you ever hear a Republican say,
putting people in categories?
Black people can't vote or black people take the bus? I mean, could you imagine?
Exactly.
I mean, you know what I mean? But you only hear Democrats say things like that. Why is that?
Because they're racist.
Because they're racist.
They're racist. If Joy Reid was truly concerned about rooting out racism, she would have been all over Mayor Pete for saying, wait a minute, public transportation isn't just something black people take. Mayor Pete thinks black people don't have cars and cannot drive.
He thinks that they because they have the problems with the bridges.
I guess so.
And he thinks those low bridges keep them from leaving their homes.
Driving. Yeah.
Well, they don't think they can get driver's licenses. One of the funniest things I ever saw was somebody went to New York City, and this was when they were talking about how the Democrats were saying black people can't get driver's licenses. And this one guy went on the street and interviewed a bunch of black people in New York City. And he said to them, do you have your driver's license? And they said, yes. And then he asked a couple people, where's the DMV? And this one black guy said, it's right over there around the corner. He said, I know where it is and I have my driver's license. I'm not stupid. They really believe, and it's a political tool as well, but they really believe that minorities are helpless and that minorities are victims. And unfortunately, and they felt that way about minorities from the time of slavery. Unfortunately, a lot of minorities like Joy Reid buy into that thinking, and they have a victim mentality as well. It's when a minority gets off the liberal plantation and realizes they're not a victim, they're in charge of their own destiny, them and God, and they can go get a driver's license, they can do whatever they want. That's when they wake up and realize, that they're being lied to.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, Mayor Pete, no, black people can drive and have driver's licenses and can even buy cars, right?
And they can even go to the beach.
And Joy Reid,
my gosh, what a pair of idiots.
Joy Reid is so wrapped up in her hatred of Trump and other things, she didn't even pick up on the real racism coming from her guest, Mayor Pete. Now, Emerald Robinson gave an interview over the weekend to Steve Maltzberg, and she said quite a few things here I thought were interesting. She talked about her departure from Newsmax, and Emerald Robinson said that she believes that Newsmax was looking for her replacement and just used her tweets
you said the same
as
thing.
an excuse. Well, yes, that's exactly right. And just last week and the week before, I was telling you this, that they wanted to hire
James
Rosen.
Yep, that's possible.
And they were looking for a way to move her out of that position. So they used this problem she ran into on Twitter as an excuse to get rid of her, And that's probably true. And she's working for Mike Lindell now over at Frank Speech. She has her own show over there. But she was talking about the White House press corps and how they treated her. And she said there's in the briefing room, she said there's a very controlled narrative, a set of questions that is asked by corporate media. I would often get laughed at by my colleagues for asking questions that Americans wanted asked.
Right.
And I've seen that.
It's so staged, those press conferences.
Yeah, when Emerald Robinson or the One American News reporters would ask questions, you could hear the rest of the press briefing room chuckling when they would ask like real questions.
Perhaps
it's very common.
Perhaps Newsmax wanted her to ask certain things and she went rogue. and asked what she wanted.
I don't know.
That's possible too. They might have given her a list of things. And sometimes they do that because they want to direct the tone of the show. And they might say, look, we want you to ask him this because we have something related to that we want to discuss. That can happen. Ultimately, she does work for the network and that she, they're her boss. So, she can't completely do her own thing. But maybe there were times when she just asked things so out of the box that even they were like, well, we didn't want you to say anything about that or whatever. But, James Rosen, he's very good. And I like Emerald Robinson. I don't know why they couldn't have both or put her in a different thing. I like her, but I like him too. And he certainly has the experience and was with Fox News, and he's a very good reporter. The only thing I didn't like about him, like I said, it was his kissing Biden's butt ahead of the question. I thought that was a little bizarre. Like, out of total respect for you. I've never heard a reporter really grovel like that.
I don't think he was groveling.
I didn't like
James Rosen.
A little.
He was asking a question that was the elephant in the room.
True.
And he wanted to go on the record that he respected the office and everything else. And before he asked a really
disrespectful question.
I don't think the question was
No,
disrespectful. It was the only question that should have been asked in that press briefing. It's the one that's on the front of everyone's mind. How
would you have answered that?
Competent?
Because Biden's answer was so appropriate. I have no idea. Well, that's the problem. How would you have answered that question if you were him?
Well, if you're not in cognitive decline, you would say, I'll have my doctor come out here with all of my neurological test results, and he'll have a press conference like Trump did.
I'll go have an MRI right now
with Ronnie Jackson. They were calling Trump's question into health.
Remember, Trump
he sent Ronnie Jackson out and had a press conference.
Right. And remember, he went on Dr. Oz and went over his labs and challenged Hillary to do the same thing. You're right. That's
exactly.
What he would do.
Because he's healthy and has nothing to hide, President Trump. Joe Biden has all kinds of things to hide.
That's for sure.
Now, listen, we're going to take our last break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
Your personal style and home say a lot about who you are, and decorating your space as well as your wardrobe can make a true statement. Adding a little pop of color to your space and yourself always makes things better. The Etsy shop, My and Cara Love, available at myandcaralove.com, offer amazing handmade African print lampshades, throw pillows, blankets, accessories, and more. Designer Wumi specializes in designing custom-made soft furnishing, accessories, and clothing using African prints. Since we're all spending more time at home these days, it's a good time to invest in your living space. And myandcaralove.com has the perfect item to help you do just that. Lampshades. They're a great way to add some personality, color, and style to your home or office. myandcaralove.com has many great designs to choose from. New designs and items are constantly being added to the store. Check out the handmade items right now online at myandcaralove.com. That's myandkara love.com. myandcaralove.com. Does the planet Nibiru really exist? Did the ancients in Mesopotamia really describe it in their text? Find the answers to those questions and more in the must-read book from author Francesco Pastore, Nibiru, the Phantom Planet, analysis of the historical and scientific evidence produced by Zecharia Sitchin. Zecharia Sitchin is a well-known supporter of the theory of ancient astronauts and claimed that the ancients knew all the planets of the solar system. But what's the truth? Zecharia Sitchin was the original author of the hypothesis of the planet Nibiru's existence. Later, many authors relied on this hypothesis by writing hundreds of books. Unfortunately, many of these authors have not bothered to investigate the correctness of the hypothesis until now. Nibiru, the Phantom Planet, analysis of the historical and scientific evidence proposed by Zecharia Sitchin from author Francesco Pastore is available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Order your copy right now. Do you feel like the inability to learn new concepts and a poor memory are holding you back from staying ahead of the competition? How would you like to be more focused and more attentive? You can do all that and more with the book Fast Learner Blueprint, How to Master Any Skill Faster, available online at zynko.sellfy.store. That's zynko.sellfy.store. With this must-read book, you will learn to master new skills faster, retain information further, further, longer, and be able to apply it. We live in an insanely fast-paced world with new technologies released daily. Many sectors are advancing at such a high speed, it makes it easy to lag and miss out on new and exciting opportunities. This is why being a fast learner is highly advantageous. When you read Fast Learner Blueprint, How to Master Any Skill Faster, you will discover why it's so challenging to learn a new skill, why the 10,000-hour rule of mastering new skills is an illusion, the difference between soft skills and hard skills, and why you need to master both. 9 tips to help you become a fast and efficient learner, and so much more. What are you waiting for? Take that first step to living the life that you want to live and order your copy of Fast Learner Blueprint, How to Master Any Skill Faster, online at zynko.sellfy.store, zynko.sellfy.store. There's a podcast you will want to add to your playlist. Imperfect, the heart-centered leadership podcast with your host, Deb Crow. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect leader. In fact, every single imperfection adds to your leadership, and you don't have to be perfect to be a caring, effective, heart-centered leader. Being conscious of our own humanity helps people be better leaders in whatever they do. The host of Imperfect, the heart-centered leadership podcast, Deb Crow, searches, meets, and interviews heart-centered leaders from around the globe. New episodes are posted on Wednesdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Imperfect, the heart-centered leadership podcast, is available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and your favorite podcast platform. Imperfect, the heart-centered leadership podcast with your host, Deb Crow, the perfect podcast for imperfect people. Add Imperfect to your playlist right now.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. So Psaki, Jen Psaki, Psaki's been around doing all these interviews, and she was on with the ladies of The View, and she slipped. Listen, this is Psaki.
A little bird told me that you said you might be resigning the job this year. Say it isn't so. Is it true?
I don't know when I'm leaving. This is an honor and a privilege, and I love working for President Biden every single day.
Oops. Okay, now,
oopsie.
Okay, now people believe, and I believe this, that she does work for President Obama and that she is the contact between the Obama administration telling Biden what to do all the time. And I don't think she's taking phone calls every day directly from Obama, because that's too much like responsibility and work for Obama.
Yeah.
Valerie Jarrett probably calls her.
I think so.
Who's running, the go-between.
Yeah.
It's Obama, Valerie Jarrett, Jen Psaki.
Jen Psaki, to me, her role, this is my personal impression, her role is more than a press secretary. There's something else going on there. I'm not saying she's running the show, but she has more of a role than just delivering.
She's a handler. She's like the
she's
handler.
Doing more than that, though. I get the impression she has a higher purpose in the White House than just dealing with the press. She's clearly, controlling the messaging. That's what a press secretary does. But I feel there's more to her job than what we're being told, whether it's a liaison between Obama and Valerie Jarrett, or whether she is actually speaking for Obama in certain aspects behind the scenes. He might have given her more power than people realize. He might, he's known her a long time. She was with Obama when he was with Obama, and he might be directing her to handle things a certain way.
No doubt.
I mean, do you really think she's meeting with him every day? Like Kayleigh McEnany would sit in on Trump's meetings. Every meeting, every day, she said she was in his meetings, taking notes, discussing things. She came so well prepared. She had that whole filofax of tabs and everything. She was so well prepared. You really think Biden's meeting with Jen Psaki to discuss what's going on? No, I feel like she's telling him what to do. That's the feeling I get. I feel like Jill or Valerie Jarrett or somebody or Obama is giving Jen Psaki directives. I don't believe that Biden is. I don't get the impression that she and Biden are in close contact.
No.
with each other at all. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
no, I
Usually
agree.
a press secretary, you understand this person is in direct contact with the president every day. I don't get that feeling with her. In fact, I don't think they talk at all. I think she's going through other people. And I think she has a lot more power than people realize behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. And, you know,
That's my impression.
It's really amazing to me. After James Rosen's question in the press briefing the other night, you put that together with this thing with Jen Psaki, which was not a slip as the kind that you're thinking about. I mean, she didn't mean to let that out, but it's not like a normal kind of slip.
It's one of those Freudian slips, though. That Freudian slip means that it's really somebody says what's really true. You know, than what they're they say what's really true rather than what they're trying to hide. So I think it was definitely one of those kind of slips where she really spoke the truth inadvertently.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you guys that are listening to the program and leave the answer to this question in the comments below the show and whatever platform you're listening to us on. I'm hearing a lot of people say that the shelves are bare at the grocery store where they live around the country. Now, Kathy and I don't go to the grocery store too much. We do everything on DoorDash pretty much. And I like doing DoorDash.
Or Walmart delivery.
Yeah, Walmart delivery. And the reason I like doing the DoorDash and the Walmart delivery is it saves us a lot of money because you only get what's on your list, right? If you go to the store, you buy something. You're always buying extra stuff, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah, definitely.
The impulse buying?
Yes, for sure I did that.
Which is where everybody does that when they go to the stores. And that's where the profit comes in from the stores.
Well, the delivery is cheap because you pay $10 to $12 a month.
Yeah.
And you do give a little bit of a tip, but so it's still you still save money. And what I do, and I mainly do this because I'm disabled. If I wasn't disabled, I like shopping. I probably would go shop in person. But you're too busy. And it's physically hard for me to do. So I shop at Walmart and Publix. And what I do is I make my list and at Publix on Instacart. And then I go through and I see how many of those items are available at Walmart. For example, Publix's prices are really out of control. A 12-pack case of Coke. This is just an example. We buy like a case of a 12-pack every week, right? A 12-pack case of Coke at Publix now is $8.50. $8.50. It was $7 a month ago.
Wow. And that was high from what it used to be.
Okay, $8.50. At Walmart, it's $5, $5.25. It is like almost $4 cheaper. That's a huge difference. But I will say this. I am noticing, because you're talking about the supply chain, at Walmart, they have a lot less meat items than Publix. If I go to Instacart, there's not anything with Publix saying it's out of stock. But Walmart, I put some things in the cart the other day. Now they've replenished it because some of those things are there now. But the other day, I was looking at chicken, beef, a lot of it out of stock, and it was a little scary because that I've never seen. Walmart especially.
Well, let us know in the comments what it's like in your community so far as what's in stock, what's not in stock. I do know this, that if we're going to depend on Mayor Pete as the Secretary of Transportation to handle the supply chain crisis, we're done because, President Trump changed so much what you expect from your government. And what I've realized because of President Trump is that most of the other presidents, all they do when there's a problem, they get briefed about it, they do nothing, and they just let it work itself out. They don't really get involved to fix anything. Right? I mean, like this supply chain crisis, they've added Biden now is not going to allow Canadian truckers to cross into the United States
or
who are not vaccinated.
But he'll let illegals in.
Yeah. So part of the supply chain crisis, they've told us, is there's not enough truck drivers. So what Biden's doing during a crisis is putting more regulations to cause trucking companies to have fewer drivers at their disposal.
What is that about?
That makes it worse.
Why is he doing that? That makes no sense.
Because he is a lifelong government worker and he's incompetent.
Well,
government workers are stupid.
I think you're giving him too much credit.
Being stupid, that's too much credit.
I think there's something corrupt going on. I think it has.
Well,
to do
he's
with
always
the unions.
getting paid.
Yeah, it's not just that he's incompetent. That's true, like Peter Navarro said, but it's the trifecta. There's also corruption involved. And it has something to do with the unions and protecting them.
Yeah.
They're not letting any truckers come through Canada or Mexico unless they're vaccinated, but they'll let illegals in by the thousands.
Tens of thousands.
That are not vaccinated. So there's obviously something criminal or crooked at least going on there.
When there is a supply chain crisis, and a large part of it is not enough truck drivers, what you do is you suspend most of the regulations so that you can have more truckers driving longer on the road, not have fewer. And the mandate for truckers seems to be like a one-man operation for the most part. They're in the cabs alone. I don't know why that's such a big deal.
It's not.
Yeah, it's really.
It's not. It's something they're purposely doing
that cause more trouble for some other benefit.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can't imagine what it is, but yeah, I'm curious to know where you live. Tell us in the comments where you live, like what city or what area, and what the deal is with your stores. And what's the name of the store?
Yeah,
I didn't know somebody had left a comment in your chat about a Publix in Tennessee. I didn't know Publix was
really?
in Tennessee.
They have them in
I
Tennessee?
thought they were only in Florida and Georgia.
They used to be just in Florida
and Georgia.
Then they moved to Georgia.
Yeah. So now they're moving into other areas, I guess, in the South.
Someone left a comment for me on YouTube the other day that says you shouldn't shop at Walmart. You're supporting the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Everything is made in China. If you're going to not buy anything made in China, you're going to go live in the woods by yourself and make everything yourself in the woods. But if you're cutting trees down to make things, the axe was probably made in China.
Well, I buy groceries at Walmart, and those are not from China. The groceries I buy, the beef and the chicken, that's all local.
Yeah,
or from the United States. We don't ship in beef or
I would hope
anything.
Not.
No,
you never know with Biden.
No, Trump made it so they buy beef from us.
Yeah, wow.
But that's. But some things are like toys or some clothes or, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not into boycotting. I'm not into that stuff. There's people that work there, and I'm more concerned with the workers and them having a job, because when you boycott businesses, I mean, it affects the business, but it also affects the people that work at that business.
Yeah.
And their income. And, because if less people shop there, they're going to cut back people.
That's right.
They're going to fire employees, and I'm not interested in that.
Well, listen, we're all out of time. We'll be back next time. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Are you preparing for a career in performance nutrition? Then the book from author Dr. James C. Moorhen, The Performance Nutritionist, available on Amazon, is your next must-read book. In any industry, there are those who progress quicker than others. It's no different in the industry of performance nutrition. Those in performance nutrition appear to effortlessly gain experience, credibility, and respect from other practitioners and athletes. They seem to stand out. But why is that? The Performance Nutritionist lifts the lid on 10 well-respected performance nutritionists, practitioners, and researchers, all of whom are successful in their careers. With hundreds of publications, gold medals, winning performances, and podcast episodes between them, the 10 individuals in the Performance Nutritionist provide genuine golden nuggets of vast and valuable information you can use. When you read the Performance Nutritionist, all of your questions will be answered. Their career navigation in academia, research, and applied practice, standout moments which have defined them, key characteristics required in the industry, the importance of mentors, influential factors which have led to their successful careers, and the question, what makes a successful performance nutritionist? You will find all that and more in The Performance Nutritionist from author Dr. James C. Moorhen. Order your copy right now on Amazon, available in Kindle and paperback.